Hello and welcome to the channel. So you can see we're working on yet another mining craft design. This one's on a large chassis. It's more of an advanced design. We've done a few experiments with it so far. Basically the gist of this ship is we have a large chassis mining craft that connects its mining arms separately. It's actually connected through an advanced rotor to allow resources to pipe through. So you can see all those ores collecting there. We have a spherical generator behind that, about 3 or 4 layers deep. Most of the ore gets collected and pulled into these collectors. We'll have to do some adjustments here. We'll likely put another collector right about here, facing sideways, or maybe one in each direction facing sideways, to make up for that gap we have right there. The gist of the mining arm is basically that we have the rotor rotating, of course, and it allows us to mine a larger area overall with less actual resources used on mining. Of course, you could expand this all the way further out, and that would be a perfectly functional design there, but it would negate the need for any rotor system. Now, we tried a few different things. We tried 2 and 3 block spacing between the rotor, or the mining branches here, and we found on the large craft that was just too much spacing, really. It ended up leaving bits behind at 2 blocks and entire rings behind with 3 blocks, which would have, of course, collided with the craft eventually once we mined far enough down. What we have done is, of course, as you can see, a single block spacing. We've even added this extra layer of 4 total miners here. You can see them in the corners just to help speed it along, since the core takes a little bit to get cleared up. The longest is, of course, the exterior there, but the core is where we had most of the problem. We actually had a break on our last test. Now, we did also try a tiered system, which was where you had a mining arm, say, or a miner down here, one up here, and then further on and so up, so it was actually basically staircased up towards the center. That was when we actually ended up with a break, and of course it's a little inefficient since you have miners that are going but not actually mining anything. Of course, we've allowed enough space for the clearance for the reverse thrusters to the arm, so that's not a problem. As you can also see, there's the 4 windows. What we've gone with is basically it's a universal design on the inside and out. And when we get to the back here, you'll notice there are 4 airlocks. Now there's also the 8 connectors that allow you to dock small craft or to dock to a station, and our 4 primary thrusters. So, let's go ahead and go into one of these airlocks. Now currently we're only using the 1 spherical gravity generator, which is fairly easy to get inside with, but of course you need to use your jets to get around overall until you get close to the front. Now this first compartment here, and these are completely compartmentalized, contains 4 large cargo containers, a large reactor in the center, and there are also 4 oxygen tanks, which you can barely see under the plating there. Now they are not designed in such a way that they would be flush with the walls, so we had to put the plating to make it airtight. Now there's also a single oxygen generator back there, and it's well, it's an oxygen generator. It makes oxygen. That allows us to cut the ice down. Now we still have a set of doors open, that's why it's not pressurizing in here. But in the main compartment, we have 4 more large cargo containers and 8 total gyroscopes. Now, at each of these windows is a control console, which is the same for all of them. So we'll go ahead and hop in one. Make sure all our doors close. Now, we did not map the drills since we just finished putting the arms back together, so we'll make sure that's mapped up. Right, so as you can see, we'll get our rotor going, turn our drills on, and we can start going forward. I'll go ahead and go in third person to make it easier. We will end up adding cameras to the system later on as we perfect it, but as I've said, we've gone through a few tests with the drill arm to begin with, and until we get that down, it's not going to get to the point where we need to start adding cameras and lights and whatnot. And that's usually a good idea for any design, is to get your basic functionality in, test it out, make sure it's going to work fine, and then add your extra items. So, as you can see, our center drills are the ones with the most contact. That's why we've got extra ones there. And our exterior drills have the least contact to each particular surface item. Again, the gist of this is that you'll be able to bore a hole straight through, which, judging by the arm, that should be just enough for that to happen. We might need to add a second layer of arms later. We'll find out as we go. I've changed the rotation from 5 to 8, which is what you see it at now, is 8. Trying to find the ideal rotation speed for a forearm bit like this. Of course, the difficulty with that is that the items in the center, even if we had less drills in the center, would still drill through faster than the exterior because there is more time of a drill on a particular surface area the closer to the center you go. Which does mean that you have to plan the amount of thrust you put in and when you thrust forward to coincide with one of the arms being in place to start cutting into the actual asteroid on the lower end, that is. Now what might be concerning is it may seem like it's taken a bit of extra time to cut through this asteroid than you would think compared to our intermediate mining craft designs, but you have got to consider how much larger this craft is and each drill is, and that in turn means that what we're actually cutting away is a much larger amount of ore. It's also a lot more build up just coming right off. Looks like we might end up having to add multiple spherical generators just to get the gravity up, so that we can just suck it all in rather than any of it flying by, like you do see a few pieces still just completely flying down towards the rear end first. In fact, you can see a couple pieces that managed to get as far as to collect on the rear end. So yes, when you're experimenting with craft, you're obviously going to make renditions as you test it out. Now another option is to use flat gravity generators and have them going off to each side. You basically would use 4. And ideally for that you would end up putting them on the rotor arm itself, pretty much tucked in behind the miners. Or the miner segments. Now you see the drill does slow down whenever you get pressed too hard up against the asteroid there. And of course, that is going to apply that torque to the drill bits that are stuck. So you will end up breaking drill bits off if you're not too careful with it. Now you could do a combination of this with the actual drill wall that we've been doing on most of our items, where you just add an entire block shape worth of drill bits onto it and keep the rotation option, because you can just stop the rotation and cut through, and then if anything gets damaged or broken, turn the rotation on to compensate for that. You see there's a bit of latency. There has been latency since the last update. Hopefully they will fix that this coming Thursday with the next update. This ship does not have any medical bay, if you were wondering about that. Was thinking about it, but didn't really make any room for it. I could, of course, make room for it. It could even be a bit more streamlined on the inside, a bit more compact. We could do hallways instead of the open space around the core, and then just use the extra space to apply medical bays or extra cargo or whatever else would be needed. As you can see, our power usage on this is very minimal. We're looking at maybe 8% at most of these minor thrustings, all drills going and full rotation. Now, the major drawback to this design, of course, is that if you take any damage to that rotor and it breaks off, you're going to lose everything. The entire mining arm will be gone. You'll have to just cut away what's left of the base for the rotor, apply a new one, and start building it all over again. Here, take a look through the window. It's got a very cool spacey vibe to it, of course. All the little asteroid bits flying around. You see there's definitely a latency spike since the update. Easier with the build-up, we're definitely going to need to add another set of collectors down there, ideally facing to the sides where those build-up areas are, or even just right under them, because that would probably correct the problem. Of course, it can be corrected manually with flight and gravitational adjustments, and that wouldn't be a problem. But the idea is to make a craft that pretty much is completely self-contained, self-operable. All you can do is worry about pointing in the right direction. Since when you're making an advanced mining craft, you're clearly at a point where you don't want to have to worry about micromanaging every little detail. Now, I've read some calculations posted on some of the forums saying that the overall waste that you get from mining in those little offshoots there is roughly about 5% of the materials, so it may not be something you even need to worry about when you get to this point. But it is always nice to collect everything you can, of course, because there's still going to be situations where, particularly ore you're mining, may not be that readily available. You may be in a map where you need a lot of magnesium and you only find a collection every 50 or 60 asteroids. Of course, in that situation, you don't want to waste any of it, so you would want to put collectors and gravity gens on. all those small rocks might be part of what's causing it to lag so much. You can see it's definitely got a huge lag effect right now. Normally I'd bother to close these doors behind me rather than leak O2, but it isn't creative, just for the video, so the oxygen actually does not matter in this particular case. But normally you're going to want to close those doors, of course, so that you don't end up bleeding oxygen out. Which is probably something I should test on the next one for O2, is whether oxygen will continue to bleed out when the environment is exposed to the void and the vents are still turned on. I imagine it's set up so that it's fairly smart about it and does not, but that may not be the case. Of course, what we're doing is we're coming out here to manually collect some of these rocks and see if that will decrease the lag. Which is another option you have for any situation where you use a gravity system and armor plating to contain spillage from mining, is you can always just come out and manually pick them up. And basically for that you just hold down the T key, and anything that comes in your view that you can pick up, you automatically pick up. I'm sure if you like it's increasing the frame rate here. Okay, with that being the case where the frame rate is definitely increasing while we're picking things up, you're obviously going to want to take care to make note of your gravity situation on these larger craft. Even if you don't do a collector system to collect it, you'll want to reverse your gravity, which it's not lagging so much. We'll actually go back inside and show you. Basically, you want to reverse your gravity, and that will shoot all those little suckers off into space, and you won't have to worry about them. It's okay, it's not the same door we came out of. That's what I meant about it being easier to get in with the forward set generator there. Alright, so basically we just go to our gravity generator, change the acceleration from 1g all the way over to negative 1g, and we see all of that just fly right off into space. There's definitely a increase in frame rate there. A lot of that lag is gone now. Still some of it though. That again has been happening since the last update. You see the ship wobbles a bit when you're hitting it around, so you gotta be careful for that once you start to actually get part way through, or part way into an asteroid. Hitting those tunnel walls will bounce you around. suppose we'll need to throw an antenna on the end of it. It's not exactly a pretty design, but it's more of a proof of concept of mining design I did today. Alright, rather than have you sit through the rest of it, me driving to the asteroid here, we'll go ahead and close the video for the day. I'll probably play with this again some more tomorrow, or in the coming days, and just basically see if we can't improve the design to make it more efficient, more functional. I hope this was helpful in some way to you, and inspires you to come up with some of your own designs. As always, have a good day.